Hello, everybody. Welcome to our podcast. I'm here with Calvin Dossmann to talk about mental health. Hello, Calvin. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for letting me come here.
I was hoping you can give our audience an introduction to who you are and what you do.
Yeah, that's when you work with people and you try to figure out who people are. That's a mess of my life because who am I? But I have been counseling people. I have been provoking. I have been inspiring people for the last 25, 30 years to become a better version of themselves, no matter what situation they are in. It could be kids, it could be prisoners in prison, I've been there. Mm-hmm. It could be CEOs, it could be, Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
So I've been counseling people, and it's like breathing to me because I can't help it.
Yeah.
So figuring out what I do, you could call me a healer too, because I do make a sort of what's it called, alignment in people's life. It's sort of a healing. It could be energetic healing, but also talking with people, and they get the insight and they get the self-awareness. It's a healing because the stress symptoms, for instance, which is a mental thing also that I'm probably going to cover a little bit, is being out of alignment.
Yes.
You're not being struck by it's not contagious to have stress. It's being out of alignment.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a sort of a healing. It's a counselor, like trusted advisor,
sure,
whatever. So, but the basic for me has probably been speaking the language of astrology.
Okay, astrology.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Well, what you mentioned before is actually the first question, and that is, why do you think so many people are having such mental health issues where there is such a demand for people like yourself?
Yeah. It's a big question, right? Because we live in this society with a lot of information, a lot of stress. Talking about what that is, we sort of have an externalization. I don't know if it's the right word in English,
sure,
but we externalize ideas and pictures of how to live your life.
Yeah.
And you probably, what is that? You make that accomplishment bigger than you're actually capable of. You want to present yourself as being the best version, but maybe if you try to live up to something and you don't know your motives, you don't know your values while you're doing it, or your vision, then you are very easily off track of your own life.
Yeah.
So you have to keep up with this. What is that called? Accelerating life out there. It's very busy.
Yeah.
And if you try to keep up with that, and you have, on the other hand, we are probably not living in a society where it's very easy or it's very safe for you to be vulnerable and say that you have your issues and your things. It's probably more a male thing than a female thing.
Okay.
So if you, according to Jung, which is one of my
I like Jung too.
psychologists I lean into in matter of science and symbols and astrology and his psychology, of course, it is that you have to learn to cope with your own inner personality, your own inner landscape.
Yeah.
And if you can embrace that, it's just like Kierkegaard saying that if you are an alcoholic, just be an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But don't pretend to not be if you are.
Yeah.
So it's more like I think if you want to be something that you are not, and to keep it, to make it very simple, an analogy was a metaphor, is some cars are made as a city car, and some are off-piste like a four-wheel driven cars, right?
Yeah.
If you want to be this monster car inside city, you're gonna bump into people and they don't like you. You're too big for your shoes, and so on and so on. And on the other hand, if you try to go in your city car and you try to climb a mountain, you have troubles too. So if you can sort of lean into who you are, what is your capacity, what is maybe your soul purpose, who knows, but it's more existential. We can talk more about that.
Sure.
So if you do not align with who you actually are, you want to be something else, you are, you have to struggle and struggle and struggle, and you can never keep up with people with a natural ability to be a four-wheel driven car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think this problem is something that has happened in all of human existence, or do you think maybe now it's something that's happening more so because maybe social media is giving people the ability to compare the best in others with the worst in themselves, and that is creating this difference of who I should be or who I want to be, or who I'm supposed to want to be, rather than who I genuinely want to be, where it could create the idea of, oh, the city life, I'm a mountain car, but the city car looks really attractive for whatever reason. I feel like I'm supposed to do that. Yeah. And so people are trying to do something that they're not supposed to be. Do you think that's something? I think I gave away my position with asking this question, but do you think that's something that this comparison has happened throughout human existence, and there's always been this trying to do something, or do you think it's more recent?
I mean, it is definitely more recent, right? Because I was just thinking about like in the Middle Age or the Stone Age.
Sure.
I mean, that's too big a leap, but today you have so many opportunities. You have, the more opportunities you have, and you navigate from outside of yourself, you're fucked.
Yeah.
So if you learn how to navigate on your inside, and feel what is right for you.
Yeah.
But the thing is that when you are very young, when you're born until you're 7, scientists says that you are in a sort of like a state, you know everything about that, I guess, about the brain and how you can be influenced by your surroundings, right? Your parents or the upbringing, person or whatever.
Yeah.
So that imprint is how you are sort of being trained or hypnotized to become.
Yeah.
And for me in astrology, that's the moon phase.
The moon, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the moon represents your mother, your childhood, but it also represents your habitual behavior.
Okay.
So when you become stressed from trying to navigate outside of yourself, you do regress into like a childish behavior.
Sure.
And then you become even more stressed.
Okay.
Because you try to live up to what other people have told you is right for you.
Yeah.
And then you are a little bit fucked again. And the stress sort of creeps in or sneaks in on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does that have something specific to do when you say the moon phase? Is that can you talk more about that?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, when I look into the person's blueprint, the astrological blueprint, I can see the position, I can see the aspects, I can see the signs, the energy that the moon is placed into.
Okay. Yeah.
And then that's you.
Yeah.
Or is it? But if you're not aware, if you don't have the consciousness about who you are above that, I mean, that you can break through the family patterns and so on, then you will end up there just being a pushover to your emotions. So if you are aware of what you do, you have some needs you can tell about from the position and so on, but you have to grow out of your moon and grow into your sun. Okay. And the sun, your soul, yourself, is like it's in the same track, right?
Sure.
So you have to become yourself, and when you become the sun, you can be shining.
Okay.
If you're in your emotion phase, you are a reflection of the sun, right? So you're the reflection of all the people around you. So that's what you reflect back. So you have to grow up and become self-independent as the sun on the sky.
So when we talked about, you know, who you are as born and in your environment, which goes to the nature-nurture debate, which is, as far as I know, unsolvable, which is why it's a debate. Does this play an aspect into the nature-nurture debate? So are you who you are because of your genetics? Are you who you are because of your environment? And now what about...
No, you're not.
Yeah.
Thank you for the question, man. Yeah. That turns me on, because it's like then you go... For my sake, when I sort of work with people that have different levels, that's like, Calvin, tell me, who am I? What's the purpose of my soul being here? And then you have to differ between your soul and your body, I mean your mental, earthly life, right?
Sure.
And we can talk about when people die, they lose the soul is transcending somewhere else.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you live aligned with the personality you are and the soul that you have your energy. If that is aligned, you have this kind of success. But if you are in your moon phase and you're very influenced by surroundings and immature personality, you don't know about yourself. But when you do the next step, when I work in that was a little, sorry for that, messing that up a little bit. But when you sort of can cover, I have this picture that you have to leave your village.
Okay.
Because when you leave your village, you can detach yourself from all the ideas, the energy in that village, and you have to stand on your own feet.
Yeah.
Then you get outside, you get the clarity to think yourself.
Yeah.
And thinking creates your reality.
Yeah.
But if you don't think, you just become emotional. You're still a child in a grown-up setup.
That's very much what I did. I mean, being from California, raised in a California environment, I lived that lifestyle. And then when I left to come to Denmark, I definitely totally relate to what you just said about just getting out of all these expectations and things that you thought you had to do these things and live this way and have these things and be this type of person. And it's not necessarily that people are trying to hold you down, or it's not that it's deliberately limiting, but somehow it's limiting anyway. And to get out, which is tremendously scary, to leave your foundation and your support and everyone you know behind. But at the same time, it gives you these muscles that you didn't know you had, and it forces you into to transcend the threshold of like a higher you, I suppose, and find out, okay, well, what do I really want, and what am I going to fight for, and who am I going to be, and what am I going to invest my time in? Which is terribly scary. It's terribly scary, but it's wonderful if you can pull it off.
But you have to do that. I mean, otherwise you're just existing. You're not living, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to live a life,
live
a life. I mean, you're here. And to me, this is just like a playground.
Yeah.
I mean, we're here to develop, and we're here to sort of like clean up. Maybe if you believe in like reincarnation or somehow. I mean, I have never figured out what I really believe in.
Sure.
But I do believe in in reincarnation. I mean, we've been here. For my sake, I can remember previous lives.
Okay.
I've been visiting the places I've been and sort of cleaned up stuff. Can I know for sure? No.
Yeah.
But you know, that's my life.
Yeah.
And it didn't make sense in my life. So maybe I loved it. I was So you asked me, can you just put me back on track again? Because I think so many thoughts at the same time. So then I think there was something about the mental stuff to go outside your.
Well, I was saying that, when I help people with their mental health, which I do a lot online, a lot of it has to do with people are very fixed into a certain behavior. They have a lot of bad habits, and they want a solution that allows them to hold on to their bad habits, but somehow still solves the pains that those bad habits are creating. And no one really wants to take the step out of what is comfortable, which bad habits are, or the pleasure which bad habits give you, but also give you more pain. Yeah. No one wants to take that step, because it's a very scary, risky, dangerous, confusing, unfamiliar area to be. My example was a very physical example of moving from California to Denmark, but some people it could be from some kind of addiction or behavior to the opposite, which could be very scary. How would you encourage people to take this leap or be more open to investigating the other side of whatever is holding them back?
Sometimes. I mean, I've been doing counseling and therapy for 25, 30 years, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I can use the sentence of my old teacher saying, okay, if you're not ready to change, maybe the pain is not big enough yet.
Yeah.
So then you have to sort of wait it out and say, now it's more comfortable for me to challenge the unknown than to stay back in the pain.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one thing. But of course, when I look into their astrological blueprint, and I can tell you, but you did this at this time, you had success with this at this time, and they say, well, how can this guy Calvin look into who I am and what I did? So if you can do that, they sort of build up a trust.
Yeah.
So maybe they believe if I tell them you can actually do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the training, it's like if you can go to the fitness 3-4 times a week, but if you're on a holiday or if you get sick, I mean, you you have to exercise, you have to keep it going. And the same about your consciousness, about who you are. So if you go back to California and you go to a family reunion somehow, you slip into that.
I do.
Again.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware. And I guess you're talking about addiction. It's like an alcoholic.
Yeah.
You have to be aware every day.
Yeah.
I mean, just one tiny little beer.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Sure.
You have to be aware and decide what kind of life you want to live.
Yeah.
And you can do that.
Yeah.
So actually what I forces people to do most of all is to take leadership of their own life.
Okay.
And that always begins with your mental stuff.
Okay.
What are you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? When you say be a leader in your own thinking?
Yeah.
That's I know that would be that in itself is very it's such an outside concept for people to understand. What does that mean to be a leader in your own thinking?
Yeah. That's good. First of all, you have to, when we had the subject about being influenced by social media, and so you have to decide what you want to look at.
Yeah.
Because it defines your reality.
Yeah.
And when you have that reality, you cannot see anything else. It's like Jung is saying again, what's inside of you, it's a filter.
Yeah.
And you can't see anything but what you expect happening out there.
Yeah.
To become a leader in your own life, then I'm just a tiny little tad of astrology in here.
Please.
So that is the planet Saturn.
Okay.
And Saturn is the teacher.
Okay.
Saturn is also the area in your blueprint where you think, oh, I'm not good enough. So you have to work with that stuff. I'm not good enough. You can't avoid it, but you have to train.
Okay.
And when you're not good at something and you rehearse, then you get an expert over time. So that's where you have to exercise your lack. Then you become an expert or something. But Saturn has to do with putting up boundaries. And if you cannot put up boundaries, you are just like a pushover for all the energy and all people's opinion. And so that's, what's it called? The first step for yourself to put up boundaries.
Okay.
Learning to say no.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to be part of this game. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But the scary thing is you might ending up standing alone.
Yeah.
But if you want to be, in Danish, it's self-standing. I mean, you have to stand yourself, right? Yeah. But it's more easy in Danish, right? Because you stand yourself.
Oh, like that.
So independent.
Okay.
Maybe you know the word selvstændig.
Yeah. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe more in English, it's outstanding.
Sure.
But if you are standing out as this leader, but it meaning you're standing alone.
Yeah.
And then we're back to this scenario you mentioned about leaving the comfort in being part of a group. Yeah.
So when we talk about Saturn being a boundary, is there anything and saying and no? Is there anything that's saying that determines you saying yes? Is there in astrology because like me moving, is there anything that you'd be able to say, oh, that was something with astrology that indicates, oh, I just went for it, or I was open to doing it, facing it. Is there anything related to astrology that talks about
made you make that?
Yeah, like the opposite, like if I understood, Saturn says is why you say no, and is there anything that makes you say yes? Is there anything?
Oh yeah,
like that.
I mean, it implies that because when you say no, you also say yes to something.
Okay,
right?
It's the same thing. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Saturn has to do with 7.5 years. It's significant around 30, and just to say something about that could sort of be a picture. I think it's 20 years ago. I had a session with this guy, and he was living somewhere else in the country. He was not able to come to my place, but I was passing through the country, and I met him. And we met in my car in a small road, and it was a little dodgy because I mean, what are these two guys doing?
Yeah.
And he came to me, and it was a great story because he was 30. Okay. And then he asked me, Calvin, here we are. I have your blueprint, and what do you want to talk about? Or I mean, should I just lead? Or no, I have one question. Okay. And because Saturn is your authority, it's your dad when you look in your chart too.
Okay.
And so it's boundary, what am I not good at, and how do I become an expert, and so on. So it has a lot of significance to its energy. Right?
Sure.
He said to me, Calvin, I have to talk with you about my father and my career.
Okay.
Okay, and it's all has to do with Saturn. And he said to me, could you look in my chart and see, am I a farmer? I was like, many questions I've had throughout my life during astrology. You say, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I cannot specifically see if you were a farmer.
No, okay.
But I could see that he was very good with kids. He was creative. He was sporty. He was a teacher for kids too. And so he had so much in that area of life. And so I presented that to him. And he said, thank you. And Saturn has to do with tradition too. So you just do what your father tells you to do.
Okay.
He was 4th generation in the family, being the oldest kid to inherit the farm.
Yeah.
And he said, no thank
more.
you. Yeah. But he needed my inspiration to say, and he said, oh, I just applied for becoming a pedagogue or something. So that was where he would take it. But he had to confront the father and say no. Yeah. And then he became the authority. Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting. We get so caught up in our ideas that we don't even consider that there's anything else. I was speaking to a psychologist once who told me about their patient, and the patient hated breakfast. They resisted breakfast. They just got so anxious and depressed over breakfast. And the therapist was like, well, why? And the patient said, well, I just don't like eggs. And the therapist was like, you don't have to eat eggs. And they were so like, oh, you're right. I don't have to have eggs for breakfast. They're just so fixated on the association between eggs and breakfast that there was no, they couldn't even, the tunnel vision didn't allow them to see anything else. And it's just like, oh yeah, just no more eggs. And that was the solution. That changed everything. And we get, and that's just a small example. We do, like you said, with a profession or lifestyle, or we get way more fixated on even bigger things. So it's such a relief. What you do is by giving people the ability to, like, just,
an insight.
This insight. Yeah,
I can see what you like.
Yeah.
I had a woman who came to me and she said, "Oh, I'm tired of my job." Okay. Can you see what I do? Yeah, I can. You're an interior designer, and you just love it. And she started crying. She said, "No, that was my childhood dream. I'm sitting in an office in a what is it, a union. Yeah, and it's killing me. I'm sick all the time." Yeah. So she started crying. Say, "Okay." So now are you ready to, like, you leave home? Right. And what about my income, my pension, my whatever, and people, how they perceive me, and can I make a living? No, but you can die staying in this office. Yeah. Have mental diseases, right? Yeah. I really like. I'm a big fan of Jim Carrey, who's talking about his dad being. I think he was a musician, and he loved being a musician, but he had to support the family, so he gave up his dream of being a musician and became maybe an accountant or something. And it just killed his dad, but he was able to support the family. Yeah. And that was Jim Carrey's motivation. Like, I can't make that sacrifice. No. So I'm gonna have to go with comedy, making people laugh, being an actor, making these movies, and it worked for him. But that was the motivation, was like seeing that you can't, like, don't sell your life on something stable just because that's what you have to do. That risk is so scary. Me moving here was so scary. Lots of things we do, taking a new job or leaving a job or personal relationships, all sorts of things, very scary. But if you really got to follow. You're here in such a fragment of time.
Yeah. And not only is the time here small, but we're not guaranteed more. And we take time for granted. We think, I've got loads of time to do that later, but tomorrow is not promised. Dinner is not promised. I might never leave this building. No. You know what I mean? If something could happen, nothing is promised. And if we could cherish our mortality, or be aware of it, that's something I really like about. I think it's the stonemasons or the Freemasons or something. They really worship skulls, which sounds very gothic or creepy or whatever. But the reason that they worship skulls is to constantly remind yourself that you are here for a very short time. Yeah. And this, you will turn into this skull pretty soon, and it's all gone. So embrace this, as you said, play this game while you have it, because you never know when it's.
And of course, when if people are not as courageous as you are, you left the town, you left your country. I mean, it's a big thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And you came to a place, and I mean, we do speak English in this country, but I mean, it's not native. So
sure.
But if you have this, because I hear people say, "Oh, I do this because I'm good at it." Yeah, but do you like it?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and if you don't want to let go of it and become a professional painter or something, maybe you can. I mean, agree on the fact that you need security if you're that kind of person.
Yeah.
And then do it 50-50 maybe, and maybe transition, a smooth transition.
Yeah.
Other people, I just remember sitting at a network meeting, and there was a woman coming a little late, and she was sitting next to me and said, "Hi, Calvin, how are you? I'm fine." So what are you doing? Nothing. I just left the keys in the desk at my office.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay. Like 5 minutes ago.
Like I'm done. The type of
I'm done. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? I don't know, but now I have the opportunity to figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, not all people are cut out for that.
No.
I mean, if you have some values about making a safety for your kids or your family, or I mean, then you cannot just do whatever you want to.
Yeah.
But I've been working with kids. I've been head of our after school care. I've been working a lot with kids too. And kids are happy when your parents are thriving, no matter what they do and how much money they have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because then they are this next role model. So they don't have to imply the restrictions on themselves, right? Yeah. So to become their father and mother.
Yeah. So how can so for people that are watching, I mean, we've talked a lot about how great it is to go beyond yourself or go out. How do you help people make this step, or how can people who are watching do this better?
I mean, first of all, they have to make a decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes they are lucky because I think it was in the 90s or something, there was all the people in the financial sector, in the banking, so many people were laid off. Yeah, and there was a Danish television program on that.
Okay.
And they were interviewing people, and they were just devastated. Yeah, they had to leave the house, and they got broke. Many.
Yeah.
And they filmed them. They filmed them again, like 3, 4, 5 years after. And I think 90% of the people say this is the best thing that ever happened. And the thumb of rules in astrology is when you go through a transformation phase, it's usually 2 years. You can never force it. Yeah.
Okay.
And the planet Mars, which is your acting planet, has a 2 years circle.
Okay.
So, and so I'm very much into the life stage people are at the moment. When I was 14, I began reading existentialism and Kierkegaard and Sartre, Camus, whatever. And when I late teens, I found this American book actually on life stages according to psychology. And later, when I became 30, remember 30, I met astrology, and I didn't learn it. It just emerged from me. So I was natural born astrologer. I just didn't know.
Yeah.
And it is sort of aligned with the psychology too. So when I look into people's charts, I look into the life stage they are in. And they are so predictable. I mean, when you're 28, when you're 30, 35, and the big one is 40 to 43, it's a very big one.
Yeah.
And again, maybe 56. And then that's on a what's it called? That's for all people in general, right?
Like a lifespan development.
And you can see there's statistics in the Western or industrial life that the most people being divorced is between 40 and 43. I mean, it's a fact. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Because the planet Neptune and Uranus saying, I want the freedom.
Okay.
And I'm confused, and this is just an illusion or something. So I have to tear down all the illusions.
Yeah.
And they sort of end up alone, and then they sort of begin their life again. So life stages are very, very informative too. Yeah.
And how do you know that Neptune, Uranus, they're combined with these things? How do people figure out how to read the planets.
That's probably the thing. That's what people pay me for interpreting it.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so of course people are not astrologers, but I mean, if they just had some simple tools and they could say, I mean, they do need to know a little bit, right?
Okay.
But if you looked into your Neptune, you can see what's the area of your life where you have a hard time putting up boundaries, as we began with talking about. And another thing, where is your Jupiter? Your Jupiter is a happiness planet, the love planet, not just like man-woman or man-man or whatever, you know, I mean, not on a profound level.
But
but by heart.
Yeah, sure.
So what is thriving you? I mean, what thrives you? So you look at Jupiter, and did I forget your question? Maybe, but if you look into your chart and you know that, you can see. But am I doing what I'm best at?
Yeah.
And for me, if I look into my chart, I mean, it's in a hidden area of my chart actually. So my happiness is not visible. So what do? I go into this room of the 12th house. I go into people's dark rooms. Okay. The mental dark rooms.
Yeah, sure.
I've been in psychiatry. I've been with kids trying to commit suicide. Sure. After trying to, considering it. I'm working with alcoholics, with prisoners. Yeah. Because they're in such a dark place. Yeah. And that's my home field. Yeah. And every time a person goes through a transition, it's just like the caterpillar, or the caterpillar.
The butterfly.
You have to be in that tunnel for a couple of years, and then the light will be there. But then you have wings. Yeah. I was going to say, it's funny, because earlier I forgot what you were talking about, but I was going to say what the caterpillar calls death, the butterfly calls birth. Yeah. I was going to say, I forgot what, but it's funny you bring that up. Yeah. Because it made me think of that. But so let's say, so when you're helping someone who's depressed and suicidal, for example, what kind of things do you do to help them? I mean, when they approach me or consult me and they're depressed, I mean, then they have an urge. They know that there's something different, right? Yeah. I have to be patient. But to be honest, I'm not very gentle. Actually, I provoke people to say. I think that's good. I think we are too gentle on people. Yeah. When I help people online, I do this thing online where people ask a lot of questions and I give private and public answers, and I do not be like, I'm not delicate at all. I actually, what you said earlier about your pain is not enough to break through. Like, bring it up. Actually, bring up the heat. Yeah. Because that's when you're depressed. Just stay there. Yeah. Yeah. But the first step is if you're depressed and you make a decision to stay depressed, you have actually raised your energy, because then you're in charge. I've decided to be or stay depressed, or stay there. You probably die from some internal diseases if you stay there. Yeah. So you want to say you can stay there. I don't care if you want to die. I mean, I'm not. I know what you mean. Ask you to. I mean, I know what you mean. Try to see the light, right? Yeah, because you come to me. So of course I will help people. Yeah. But it's your free will. Yeah. I mean, you can do what you want to. Yeah. But I can tell you why you're depressed. I can tell you why you're in this phase at this moment. Yeah. Does it have to do with this? When you talk with people and they are, I don't know, when they are 45 or something, and I can say, what did you do when you were 30 or when you were 15? And they can see, wow, I did that. Oh, Christ, I'm doing exact same thing again. Okay, try to alter it. Yeah. Become mature. Yeah. Be responsible. Yeah. Wow, is that what I'm doing? Is that how life works? Yes, it is. But step up your game, or raise your game. Yeah. Right? We do really repeat our mistakes, the same kind of bad habits. Yeah. We do it so often. Like sometimes something's not enough. Yeah. And at first we might be chasing, let's just say girls, and then you realize, it's never enough. And then you get into money, like, okay, that's not the satisfaction I'm looking for. I'm doing money. And then you get into the exact same pattern of like, you just
more money, and like, that's not enough. Yeah. And then it's like, okay, maybe it's my career. And then you're just trying to move up the ladder, and it's like more and more. But this idea of, and this is just an example of moreness. Yeah. That error that we make, it could be different for different people, but people who do make that error of this moreness, they go from one subject to the next without realizing.
You just replace your addiction.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Though I want to tell you a short story, and I cannot remember if it's Tony Robbins or something who told this story, or someone else.
Yeah.
And it was a very rich guy. He was alone, and he was very loaded. And so he bought an extra car and one more and a bigger house, and nothing helped him.
Yeah.
And it was at the time with the Balkan War, it was in the 80s or something. Yeah. And he had a friend, and he was gathering aid for the kids on Balkan.
Okay, yeah.
You got me now.
Yeah, yeah.
And he said, yeah, so we're going to fly the stuff over there for the kids. And he said, okay, I have nothing to do. You can borrow my jet. And they stuffed the jet, and they flew there. Yeah. And the story goes that this guy, he helped to hand out a little bit of like crutches and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
And there was one kid from Balkan. He was sort of pulling his sleeve, and he said, what is he saying to me? And this kid, he said, and he got translated, he said, I just want to look you into your eyes again, because I want to remember you when I meet you in heaven, because you made a difference in my life. Gosh. And this guy, tough guy, his heart melted.
Of course.
And he organized the rest of his life doing charity.
Totally, yeah.
So we all want to. That's my tagline on my homepage, shine and share.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much you do things, but if you don't share it with the world, and no matter how little or much you can contribute with your skills or your personality, if you can just make a person smile today, you make this world a better place, and you feel better. Yeah. And the best cure for people being in pain, mental pain, is to leave your ego and serve other people, because then you tend to forget yourself and your personality, and then your soul is sort of like, the light of your soul is emerging, transcending your body, and you sort of heal up.
Yeah, and it's also an easy way to let go of these silly distractions that you've been focusing on so much, and then focus on something better, and that fills up the space. Now you're not thinking about this stuff that's just weighing you down, and it's such a, so letting go, you're not only letting go of a heavy weight, but you're getting a bonus. So it's like a double negative, if you know what I mean. So it's less weight and more positive. So it's also, if you are in pain and it's a personal relationship or something, it could be your boss, it could be your ex or friend who sort of stacked you in the back or something. Sure. If you can forgive, to give for. I mean, when you forgive, you're actually giving people light or love, and then you forgive yourself too. Maybe if you can forgive yourself and give yourself the light, become your sun, and not stay in your habitual moon, doing your habitual behavior. So shed your own light out there and forgive yourself. Give to yourself and to the world. So many people think that forgiveness is somehow giving up. Or like they lose the war or something, and it's such a gift to give to yourself and the person and the world forgiveness, and people just kind of dismiss it as what's that going to do, but it's such a relief. I also talked about people about forgiveness, and I try to encourage, no matter what, always forgive. There's a wonderful story of a mother whose son got killed by somebody, and I forgot the details, but she welcomed this murderer into her home to help raise this guy or something, just to, and it obviously raised a lot of controversy, but she was like, I'm going to give this murderer the love that he clearly didn't have, because there was so much hate in him to take someone else's life. And so then they build a relationship, which is such a awesome and powerful demonstration of forgiveness, and selflessness and loss of ego, if you can do that.
But you can, when working in this field that I work in now, is you cannot, it's not like no gain, as no pain, no gain, but you have to struggle to grow. Yeah, you do. Otherwise you just like, you have to be supported by a society or something, and you're just like a fragile flower who cannot stand on its own, right? But there is a confusion between acceptance and forgiveness. Okay. Because actually, as late as yesterday, I talked with a woman and she said, but I cannot, I'm confused about, she said, I can forgive him, but I cannot, and I can accept it, but not forgive him. And said, maybe it's the other way around. You should not accept the action, but you can forgive it.
Sure.
So me, at this time when I was a volunteer, just talking with people in the isolated area of prison, I never judged them.
No.
I never asked them what they did, but I'm sure I did not approve of it.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's just sort of the agreement. If you spill the coffee on the office floor, you have to sweep it up yourself. If you don't do it, other will probably bully you, and that's a punishment, right?
Sure.
But we can forgive you. So if you can forgive yourself, but maybe you don't have to accept that you do the same bad things over and over. Step up your responsibility. You know?
and it's good to remind ourselves that none of us are innocent.
No.
We are all guilty of things, and pointing the finger at people who are guilty of other things, or even sometimes the exact same thing that we're guilty of, as some kind of distraction.
And if you want to hate people, like this mother who lost her son or her child, if she could not forgive him, she would be carrying her anger
for the whole life,
and her anger and her fear, and I mean this. It's very easy. Either you have fear or you have love. But the fear thing is also anger and control and trying to crush other people. But you die in the process.
Well, we only have a few minutes left. Are there any final words, for some takeaway insights or actionable insights that we could give to the audience for how to use what we've talked about, or anything else? To transcend these barriers, or let go of egoic distractions or weights in your life to move forwards.
There's one thing coming to mind.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. That is also my old teacher taught us, emotions, every emotion is forever.
Okay.
So if you're caught up in an emotion, nobody can tell you it's going to end.
Okay.
But if you have your awareness about this is just an emotion. So if you can stop yourself, trying not to react, calm yourself, take a few deep breaths, and have the knowledge and the remember that this is just an emotional state, and therefore you cannot do anything. Calm yourself and know that this can change. It will sort of like evaporate, right? At the moment, you sort of remember something else. Think about what you can do for others, and it sort of vanish or evaporate, right?
This too shall pass.
This too shall pass. I didn't want to say that, but it will. Of course, it will. But when you're in there, so you sort of have to disturb people. I'm not saying you should slap their face or something, but you have to make a wake-up call somehow. And say, So I think if you're in an emotion, know that this is just a brief moment. And you can turn it around if you search for your happiness. Just even break a smile.
Yes, exactly. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I'm so glad you came here, and thanks for your insights and the discussion. And I hope that our viewers were able to get something out of this and use it at home.
That would be nice. Okay. Thank you so much for being invited in here. It's been a pleasure.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for watching our mental health podcast. I love recording these. I love that you love watching. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Or you can share some mental health tips. See you next time.